Fernando, good morning. This is what it is. It's really accurate what you described, Felipe. That there's a new download, and this is a new life. What used to be so, shalom, shalom, Fernando. What used to be so, we were speaking about Yom Kippur. Felipe asked, how is Yom Kippur felt today? And I said, it's very different. It's very different in the air. Okay, there are no buses, no trains, no airplanes, no cars, no children going to school, people not going to work. It's just green day, eco day. You can hear the birds flying. People are just chilling in their homes. And I told Felipe that it feels so different because there's only life in the air. There's a new software or download. And I said maybe it's related to the war that happened in June with these ballistics, and this was total. There was it was so fundamental, like life or death, and there's like a new software in the air. There's only life, and if before there was like people used to, hello Luke, we're so happy to see you. I thought about you this week, and if before there was like distribution of this is almost as Catholic, yes, but this is a traditional or this is reformic or any kind of stream of people. It's just there isn't. There's only life, and this is what there is. So it is one of the happiest Kippur. There's only life, and Felipe also described it while learning instrument. Felipe, can you just, because we clicked on Craig to record, can you share your experience with playing instrument?
Yes, it was something that came into mind when you were describing the feeling of this Yom Kippur, this year uh, as uh, as a different year of from the war and so on. You felt like, I mean, it was a different feeling and couldn't
Yes.
explain exactly. And it made me remember when you are trying to achieve something, as for instance the learning an instrument, or it could be anything actually, that you spend many years, sometimes you spend many years trying to enhance your performance or your knowledge, and trying to figure out how to do stuff and to improve yourself. And it seems many times that you are struggling and there's no result, you know. But suddenly, at some point, you just go to sleep and wake up, and there is this different feeling, and you cannot explain, but you notice that something changed, that you in terms of, for instance, the learning the instrument, you just know things are hand in hand, and you know what you're doing, and it's different, and it's not a step, uh, linear step. It is like a giant step, right? You just you went to a baby step for a giant step, and then life goes on in that another level, But it's interesting, this changing of perspective from one day to another, that you cannot explain, and you just feel that something has really evolved. And I just remembered you describing, because I think it could be the feeling you are having today.
It's it's so true. It is so true. It's just the happiness of living. Yes. Yes. Yes, and Luke is writing and learning a new instrument is like reading a whole new book as well. Yes. And suddenly there is life and there is distribution. And like Felipe says, you learn an instrument or you learn, read books, you try to, in brackets, achieve something or to arrive somewhere. And at some point, something happens. It's not something that we did. And there's like a new acceptance, I would say, in the air. It's not even that people are consciously decide upon it. There's a new acceptance or a new download, and this is what there is. And this is the software that is running here, just life. And life, the celebration of life, but not in a way that it is loud or expressed in a very noisy or colorful way. It's just the happiness of living, but very, very silent, because there's appreciation of life, because all of us could, in one click, maybe 10 million people could be clicked, clicked away. And it did not happen. And there's just a silence, joy of being alive. And it's great. And we wanted to share it with you. And good morning, Fernando. Good evening, Yanis. Good morning, Luke. How do you do today? Would you like to share something with us? Luke, Yanis, Fernando, Felipe, you're most welcome. Maybe you'd like to ask a question, so feel free to ask anything that you like. On Monday, we're going to have... Yes, Felipe?
Just I was just curious about just reading a bit about Yom Kippur, and there is this, and I know that we can look at it in a symbolic way, but there is this interesting rules, 5 rules of Yom Kippur, and one of those is the let's say prohibition or impossibility, I would say in our lands, impossibility of wearing leather shoes or wearing leather as clothing. So I was just curious to hear what would you say about it?
Yes, there is like we say tradition or deliverance that says that in this day do not wear leather shoes, leather sandals, leather jackets, even belts that is made out of leather, not even, how do you say, watches that their armband is from leather, any decoration from leather. Why? Leather, yes. In English, leather is leather. In Hebrew, leather is O, or I don't have a Hebrew keyboard. I don't. Yeah, we have here on the Linux. So, O, ve'ain. Yes. So it is like the story about Kotnot O, the skin garments that. This is resonates with the midrash, with the lore of skin of garments, that after Adam and Eve were expelled from the Garden of Eden, they were dressed in temporary dressing, which is skin garment. Skin garment. So to remember, yes, that in a way this specific day of Yom Kippur is a heavenly day. We are in the Garden of Eden. So in the Garden of Eden, this is non-duality, basically. There is no skin garment. This is the day of the soul. There is no space and time. In space and time, yes, there is appearance, and appearance here comes through the lens of skin, whether it's animal, kitten, yes, or a baby. It's the same. They appear with a skin garment. But on Yom Kippur, there is a deliverance, or there is a notion, or tradition, or a note not to wear any dressing or wrapping from leather, to remind us that in this day we are not of space and time, or we are not in space and time. This is the day of the soul, the day of Eden. So just this is a little note to remind us, yes, that we are in the Garden of Eden, that we have never left. This is it. Does it make any sense, Felipe? Fernando, Yanis, look, does it make any sense?
Yes, Eti, a lot. I didn't look for the word of leather in Hebrew, Eti. But when you mentioned or with the ayin, suddenly many teachings came, and so it is so let's say out evident when we are looking through the lens of the Hebrew letters, Eti. So it makes a lot of sense. Yes, thank you.
You're most welcome. It's also to remind us, yes, that we are not skin, because the tendency of the brain, yes, is when someone looks at the mirror, he sees or she sees some kind of an image. There's a face, there's a body. The body, of course, is how can we say it's a body? It's a different or separated body. It covers with the skin. That gives it a sense of a border to this body outline. But so everyone has a skin. And this is, in a way, what separates us from each other. And Yom Kippur comes and says, you are not a skin. What the eyes, yes, because the system of time and space builds in a dual mode. It's a dualistic system. And the information that comes to the brain is always that comes from the dualistic system. So the eyes are seeing a figure. Now it doesn't matter who is staring in the mirror. He or she, doesn't matter. The eyes are seeing a figure. The figure, regardless of being dressed in a suit, or it has a skin around it. And the identification of the brain goes, hey, me, John, I am this body, I'm this skin, I'm this head. And Yom Kippur comes and says, no, you are not at all totally of a skin. We are not totally of a body. We are not totally of time and space. We are the before. This is what it says. This is what is the meaning of Yom Kippur. Therefore, the Day of Atonement, yes, they say atonement, if you divide the letters, is at oneness. Yes, the same word, if you divide the letters, atonement is at oneness. There is no separation in the absolute. Therefore, there's like 5 things people to remind us. Yes, it's not to keep, because some people cannot keep it on certain health conditions or so. So don't wear like leather shoes, leather belts, jacket, watches, armband, from any kind. Yes, to remind us that we are not of a skin. The soul, you cannot dress the soul. People try so hard to dress themselves as beautiful or as charming. This is what happens all over the place. It doesn't matter where people grew up, what is the outbringing. People all the time try to dress themselves the best. Like if it's an absolute, the body is an absolute. But it's not. We are not of the body. Though the information comes, yes, from the mirror and says, this is you, this figurine that is being reflected is you. And Yom Kippur comes and says, no, this reflection that you see in the mirror is not you. You are not of skin at all. You learn to be associated with the skin, with the body. You learn to identify yourself with the story, with the name, with narration, but it's not who you are at all. Therefore, there is no drinking, not because it's a punishment if someone will drink, because to show us those 5 lanes are not happening. Yes, before space and time. There is no drinking, there is no eating, and so there's no washing. All of those actions that are marking the fact that we are in space and time. Why, just an open question, why do we baptize babies? This is out of religion question. Why do we baptize babies? What is this tradition? Who would like to answer this? Why to baptize babies? Any answer? Fernando, Luke, Yanis. Why people usually traditionally are baptizing babies, and those days are considered to the parents, to the community, very important. Why? Why this is happening? Why to baptize a baby? Yes. What is this mark? The mark of water. They're entering time and space. They're being baptized. Yes, it's like, yes, of course they're being born people. Of course, of course, of course. But why is this? Yes, you are of time and space. Because washing or, yes, why people wash? The flesh will stink. If people would not wash themselves, the flesh will stink. But Yom Kippur says there is no washing because you're not of flesh. So there is no need in washing. There is no need in eating. There is no need in drinking. There is no need of a anointed, yes, to put oil or cream because you're not of a body, you're not of appearance, and there's nothing to cover or to anoint with oil. It's very interesting. Of course, of course. It is quite interesting. Yes, yes, Felipe.
It is interesting, Yeti, because one thing leads to another, and I was also not curious, but I was thinking about this rule of the anointing, and should that we shouldn't anoint the body in this particular day, and it's because there is no body to anoint. Interesting.
Yes, yes, there's no body to be anointed, to cover with oil. Because we are, this is a very interesting day because it is to remind us that we are not of the body, the people appearing here, yes, but what we take to as different people, separated people, is just an appearance like leaves on a tree, but we are not of space and time. And when there's someone deceased, the soul continues to live. There is no difference. The communication also happens. Now it happens through words, through voice. Yes? But when someone deceased or so, the communication continues. There is no lack. Nothing is gone. Nothing is lost. There is no loss in death. Yes? What is considered to be very, very dramatic, and people leave all kinds of papers, they wanted this will go that. It's not a big deal at all. It's just the soul removes its identification or partly identification with the body, and the soul, as is always, is free. It's just the brain, in a way, that is installed in the head of the body. Yes, in the death, there is no deliverance, there is no story. So the brain that tells us a story about ourselves is also will be buried and there is no story. But it doesn't stop the soul. The narration, the story about ourselves, is a temporal story that the brain weaves. But once somebody is leaving or there's a deceased, so there is no story to tell. Story is gone. But nothing has been detached. And there is no loss. And there is no lack. What has appeared in certain year as a body, as a birth of a baby, after a few decades or so, the breath leaves the body stops to be animated, what we call death, and there's a burial. And with the burial, the story of the figurine is also gone. If people will write the story or tell a few details, sometimes they're writing on the stones in the, how do you say, in a cemetery, few words, but this is a narration. This is what people tell about this person that's supposedly appear in a certain year and supposedly had passed from the narration perspective, from the narrative, yes, but not from the absolute. From the absolute, nothing, there is no lack, nothing really happened. And this is to remind us, this is one day per year to remind us. It is quite interesting. There is, just from the perspectives of a different culture, there is a supermarket here called Rainbow. In Hebrew, Keshet. The people who established this net of supermarkets, how do you say, chain of supermarket, they came from Russia. And Russia used to be Soviet. And no goods could come from the West to Soviet Russia. So the people who came from Russia to Israel, they had this ambition or this goodwill to give the customers in the supermarket every product that you can get in the world. They want to give their fellow brothers, Russian speakers, yes, all products that any Western supermarket serves their customer, to show that there is no limitation and there is no block and there is no sorrow, because what used to be beyond the Iron Curtain is really sad story. So they open here, how do you say, a chain supermarket called Rainbow, Keshet Te'amim, rainbows of taste. They offer as much as possible teas of all over the world, oils, everything, but in the beautiful range that people could choose. In Russia, you could not choose. There was a cabbage or potato, you know. So once we ask, and it's the chain that also declared that she opens also on Saturdays as well, meaning 7 times every day of the week, 7 times. There is no closing day in this supermarket. And we asked the lady, is it open every Shabbat, every Saturday also? And she said, yes, this supermarket is open 364 days, except, she said, one day, Yom Kippur. Yes, today, this is the only day of the year that the Rainbow supermarket is closed. Just to give you a perspective. They open 364 days, yes, but Yom Kippur, it is closed. Because Yom Kippur stands as the absolute. The Hebrew tradition says, yes, it's our Christmas here, yes. And it stands like the sages say, Kadmono shel Olam, the ancient of the universe. And when you be here in this place, and there's nothing is moving, no mechanical, technical action is being displayed outside. The birds, the bees, the kittens, the dogs, there's no human activity. You can experience the fact or the message that we are not the doers. This nature is happening. There's sunrise, there's sunset, there's like wave of the sea, there's palms are moving in the wind, butterflies are crossing, birds are tweeting, and none of this dependent on our actions. And this is the Garden of Eden. This is the experience of the Garden of Eden. What is to experience the expulsion? What is the experience of the expulsion from the Garden of Eden? That I am, or I have, a personal doership. This is the meaning of the expulsion from the Garden of Eden. That I have, yes, a personal doership. When we think, or yes, that we have a personal doership, we're already outside of the garden. We're already in duality. Yes, because what does it translate to? Personal doership. There is the world out there, and there is a me, a separated entity. Yes, and I act in the world like we were two different, separated subject and object, but it's not. This is the meaning of the expulsion of the Garden of Eden, because the expulsion of the garden, it means that there are two. Yes, and inside, like being in the garden, this is Yom Kippur life. There is no world in me. I don't need to achieve anything. I don't have to stand in a line. I don't have to look at the watch to run, to catch a bus, an airplane, a train. Just life. Sunrise, sunset, the wind changes directions, and so on. There is no expectation. There is no process. Yes? The expectation comes from the sense of separation, because I or someone has a feeling of waiting for something that will happen to me or will come to me. So expectation, it means that already there's a separation. This is outside of the garden, so to speak. So it's just a very good, how do you say, note not to expect. Because once there's expectations, there's already a separation, there's already a gap between me and the world. Not that there is, but the brain says, yes, that I expect something to arrive. Yes, I expect something to happen. Yes, there's separation, like there is a gap, like it's not happening, or there's something lacking in being. There is no lack in being whatsoever. The lack comes from the story that the brain produces all the time, 24/7. This is what it does. Questions? So what is the message of non-duality? It basically tells us we are in the garden. We were never been born. This is the message. You're none of the two. There is no the world in me. There is no story. There isn't anything that I need to achieve from the world. Life is happening and nothing is lacking. This is the message. It is funny because we told Felipe 2 minutes before we started, Craig, to record that it is very, very different this Yom Kippur from all the previous times we were here. Because usually it is very tense. Yom Kippur was very tense, and to break the sense of like, how would say, stagnation. This is the feeling, not a private feeling. What used to be all the time, this a great sense of stagnation, but not today, not today at all. So, and I think that I shared this previous conversation. There's nothing is happening, and suddenly when the evening comes, there's fast build up of the sukkah to go from zero to hero. But and I felt today that it feels so different, because Kippur does not feel as as stagnation at all. And because it doesn't feel as a stagnation, and it feels like happily beautiful day, there is also no need to immediately, when the sun sets, to build a sukkah. It was not like this in the previous years. It was not. But this year it's very, very different. Because just to connect, what is the sukkah? The sukkah is a symbol. Sukkah is an external dressing which is around us in space and time. But it resonates with this feeling of today, because it's so beautiful. It doesn't feel like a stagnation. It's just feel like happily being in the garden. And why to build a sukkah? The sukkah is a consequence of being in space and time, like Israel built the sukkot when they were in the desert, the world of duality. So from the feeling, it doesn't feel like any other year, not at all. Very different. Any questions, Fernando, Yanis, Luke, Felipe? Would you like to share something? Anything? So what is so beautiful about this Yom Kippur? That there is understanding, that there is no sinner, ER, there is no doer. Just life. Yes, just life. What a relief. Yes, there isn't any, so to speak, God Father, God figurine that is punishing or judging us. There isn't any. There is no entity. If there's like remorse, or it's just a production, yes, a story that the brain produces to separate, yes, to resonate separation, but there isn't. This is what's so beautiful about it. There is no God punishing, and there is no God rewarding. Because if we already express it in this way, it means that there's a brain in the middle, yes, that set this condition, punishing and rewarding. Yes, it means that too. But this is a manufacturer's script of the brain. And the brain is only exists in space and time. If there's no birth happening, there's no appearance of a body, there is no brain that processes the information and sends it as absolute information to us. It just sends really partially, really separate details, and we think it's the absolute, and I understand the world, but we don't. Just for an example, there's like very, very deep creatures in the sea. Japan, I think around Japan, there's the deepest sea, like 11 kilometers under the water. Yes, 11 kilometers. There are all kinds of creatures and animals, and I don't know what that human did not discover yet, because they cannot go and research that deep. There are all kinds of life forms that, who knows? Yes. So what do we know? Basically nothing. We're just telling ourselves that if we saw a feed somewhere, or we saw a breaking news in a station, and there was like shaking pictures from a demonstration, everything is burning, everything is gone, da, da, da. but it's just a fragment of a fragment of a fragment of a fragment of a picture, and it's so partial. I mean, it's so little. And we take it and we eat it. The brain eats it like an absolute truth, and it ain't. And this is a beautiful day because there is no radio here, nothing, and you don't browse the, how do you say, social media for, because what happens is when people are opening social media, they're also being nourished. They're not just having fun. People are thinking that they're having fun or easy time. Just let's see how she is writing, what's happening. No, they're being fed with bullshit and toxicity, and then they have a bad mood, and then they think that they are wrong, and that they miss it. Or so the brain gives us all the time, yes, a very, very limited angle about life, and the angle that the brain brings is always against us. Why you have done wrong, why you have done mistakes, and so on. It's a bullshit story. Yes, just okay. So yap in this room, and you turn off the volume, and you do something else, or you turn into a different broadcast. It always negative broadcast that comes from the brain. Separation, expectation, everything is falling, everything is under destruction. This is what it does. Because this is what will happen to the brain at some point. The brain will cease to exist. But it broadcasts his fatal, let's say, journey, because we are taking the brain to be the absolute. But the brain does not transmit the absolute. No, the brain transmits its narrated story, invented story, and we take it to be the truth, and it's not. And from this comes a lot of disruption and disappointment and so. And in this day, in Yom Kippur, the brain does not exist. This is a great, great, great present and presence. Because when we don't feel the brain, we don't feel the narration, the constant push of information, you can enjoy being, just being. There's life. At least once in a year, as a community, people can maybe can have this sense. But today, it's also, you don't need to speak to people. You feel it's in the air. You feel it in the air. It's in the air and so beautiful. Any questions, Yanis, Luke, Fernando, Felipe? According to the biblical story, in this day, yes, Moses completed 40 days of praying and asking forgiveness upon the golden calf. And there was like a forgiveness. So he came down from the mountain with the second tablet that are appearing in Parashat Va'etchanan. I think it's in the fifth book of Moses, the second tablet. He went from the mountain, announced everyone that there is forgiveness, and in the sequence of event, they started building the Mishkan. Mishkan is the gathering tent. Yes, there was a sense of, after the golden calf happening, that there is a need, yes, to create a space for the holiness, because people living in their own bullshit all the time. So let's create a space, a gathering. There is a gathering tent, yes, Oel Moed, and there's the Mishkan. So the Mishkan is the communal space. When the menorah was posted, And there is like Moses takes his tent and lives outside of this bubbling community. Any questions? The tendency of the brain, this is not just historical if you want to look at it as historical story, the golden calf. This is the print, the fact that people appearing, or there's a birth in space and time, and the birth comes with appearance, and the appearance comes with a head, and in the head there's a brain operating system. The brain will finally create a narration, a story, and will nourish us with this story. So, in a way, for all of us, yes, that do not yet see beyond space and time or before space and time, there's all the time the sense of a golden calf. Let's go for this retreat. Let's go to this journey. Yeah, just in a sharing, once we were in Vienna, and there was like happening on the street, and we noticed that there are signs announcing there's a marathon. So different parts of the roads or of the streets were closed, and they put flags and to mark the way for the runners, to separate the runners from the regular traffic. And people are running, and people are waiting for them, like in any marathon, they're waiting for them to give them water and to help them and support them, to encourage them to run. And we noticed that it was like international marathon, so people came from all over the world with different outfits, because this is like sport, and people are doing this. If there's a marathon in Vienna, they take an airplane to Vienna and they do marathon in Vienna. If there's like marathon in Hamburg, they do it. So they go to Hamburg and they run in Hamburg, and they run in Paris, and the need to run, to make, this is the need that the brain produces all the time. Be there in Vienna. There's a great marathon. If you'll never be there, you'll never make it. If you never run in Hamburg, you'll never make it, and so on. Once I read about people who are runners, and they're running and climb the greatest mountain, the Alps. How do they climb the Alps? With cubes in their pockets. In the right pockets, they have chocolate, like sweet energy. In the left pocket, they have stock. Stock is like soup, like salty soup, cubes. Yes. This is what people do. They take an airplane, they land somewhere under the Alps. They put in the pockets chocolates and stock cubes, like stock, for, let's say, minerals and water, and they run up the Alps. Now, we can ask, who is doing it? Who would do such a thing, take an airplane, land somewhere under the Alps, put in his pockets chocolate and stock soup cubes, and run up the Alps, 2,000, 3,000 meters? The doer. The doer in us need this engagement. The doer in us needs to run marathon, to do bicycle, how they call it, the French bicycle, doesn't come to me the name of it. The doer needs it. Yes, I used to teach in alternative school. Yes. Yes. And there was a student, and he was a windsurfer, wind and wave surfer. And he told us, yes, And he told us that there's a wave in the Indian Ocean. Yes, he says there's a report that there's a good waves in the Indian Ocean or close to it, and they're taking a flight from Tel Aviv to Amman in Jordan. And from Jordan, they're going to take an airplane to the Indian Ocean to surf on waves in the Indian Ocean because it's the 3 or 4 days that there's a good wind in the Indian Ocean. And people are doing this. Once I saw people with like giant structures, and I said, "What is it? What are people carrying under the blankets or this cover?" And they say, "No, it's like surfing boards." Yes, they are taking flights for a couple of hours where there are good waves. Yes, and they're surfing there. Atlantic Ocean, there are big waves, so they're flying to catch waves. Yes. So you can ask, is it a sportman? You can ask, who has this, how do you say, the intensity, how do you call it? Who has this drive? The doer in us. The doer in us has this drive to run up the Alps, to run marathon in Athens, in Hamburg, and so in Paris, triathlon, yes, Tour de France on bicycle. The doer has the need to operate, and it will hook itself on anything, on retreat in India, retreat in Thailand, depends of the character. Yes, there are people who are more sport oriented, windsurfer, and so wave surfer. The doer needs those activities. Yes, Luke is writing, we are going to the Rockies in December to go snowboarding. The doer is getting older though, but I want to build memories with my kids. I understand. I understand that. Yes, you want to build a library of experience. I do. The doer. Who needs this? The doer. All those activities. Because this is what embodies the brain and the body. Who runs marathon? Who climbs the Rockies? Because our true nature is not of body. Only the body can tell itself, I climbed the Alps, I was at the Amazon. The spirit does not need this narration because the spirit is not divided. The body feels, yes, so the brain feels as a separated entity, so it needs this narration and the story and to tell stories. But our true nature is not divided. There's the spirit, there's not two. Yes? It's very simple. There's no division in the spirit. If you notice, sometimes there's like, if you listen to conversations, or there's like certain words that appears all over the globe at the same time, or ideas. People mention this sentence, and not because they're tweeting, it just there's a download of spirit somehow, and it, it doesn't matter where people are living and what they do for a living. It doesn't matter at all, at all. Because there is no division. What brings us the information of the vision is the eyes. Yes, and the eyes are growing from the brain. Yes. Once a scientist took a petri dish and put upon the petri dish cells of a brain. They want to grow a brain on a petri dish in a laboratory. Yes, as experiment. So they put a few cells of a brain on a petri dish. And after a few hours, the brain grew 2 eyes. Yes. This is an expression of duality. 2 eyes, not 1 eye. 2. This is the meaning of the brain. And everyone has a brain. So already, everything is already biased and separated. So there is like little Yom Kippur to demonstrate us, if you want to see, that we are not, yes, of the time. We are not a process. Yes, we are not bodies, we are not stories, we are not narrations. We don't have different names and different life stories. This is just a fictional layer. Yes, it's a fictional layer. So, dear friends, with this beautiful conversation of Yom Kippur, I would like to wish and everyone that you'll sign for life. This is what tradition says. We are in life and for life all the time, never cease to. And with this beautiful conversation, I would like to wish you a very beautiful season, very beautiful life, and see you as soon as possible. Yes, it will be on Saturday at the same time. Thank you. This is the first recording from the Linux. Yes, that doesn't have sound problems. Immediately, Felipe went into the class, and there was no falling of communication. So we would like to thank Zeno for setting this up, and we wish for those conversations many happy returns. Thank you so much, Luke, Yanis, Fernando, and Felipe. Wonderful life. Toda and shalom. Shana tova.